Hey everyone, I want to talk with you today about preschoolers and toddlers and what to do with them while you are homeschooling your other children. Just some thoughts on things that have helped us. Obviously, every family is completely different. Every child is completely different. So these are just some things that have helped us in our family. They may or may not be applicable for you, but I know last year I kind of just didn't really have a plan in place, and I would say it felt pretty chaotic. And I remember just feeling like this feeling inside of one day my kids will all be a little bit older and I won't be what felt like putting out fires left and right for all of the energy that young people bring. and I think that we just didn't quite have structure, and so it just was like, I just remember thinking like almost kind of just like, just hold on, I think this will be easier as the kids get older. And I do think that there is truth to just as they get older and being more sufficient and independent, that things will probably feel different than the little years where you are maybe nursing a baby, running after a toddler, and homeschooling your, kindergartner or whatever it might be. However, I do think having some sort of structure and plan in place can help ease that transition from a child who's not really kind of getting formal curriculum yet with your homeschooling, and ease them towards when they do start getting into the schooling process. So for me, I feel like I'll just say for myself, it is very unrealistic for me to think that I could go our schooling morning, which is usually 9:30 to 11:30, to go that time without having lots of engagement with our toddler. So that was something I had to wrap my head around eventually, was like, to not see that child as kind of an interruption, which is very easy to feel that way when you have a goal of trying to do school over here with this child and you are constantly what feels like being interrupted by another child. But rather, how do I have realistic expectations? Like, okay, I probably can squeak out maybe 20 to 30 minutes, probably max, of concentrated, focused time with one child while I have my youngest child being entertained with what I'm going to explain to you, how I've set things up. I think that's more realistic. But when I'm like, we're going to do school from 9:30 to 11:30, and, to realize, okay, 20 to 30 minutes of that might be where I'm focused on one child. The rest of that is going to have a significant amount of engagement with the youngest child, whether that's them sitting on my lap while I'm doing a subject with another child, whether that's me needing to go and take a pause and read a book to that child, or whatever it is. So first, I think setting my expectations really helped transition my thinking from feeling kind of frustrated about our ages to feeling a little bit like, okay, now I feel like I'm getting a hang of how to juggle all of these different ages. So I have a list of some suggestions and things that we do. I love lists and I love numbering them. So we're going to go through all the numbers. So number one, I recommend having a schedule and having consistency. I have a whole other video on our homeschool schedule, so if you want to go check that out. But I feel like, especially with little people, having a schedule is huge. So, being able to give them just a consistent thing, like when this is a school day, this is what a school day looks like, and they get used to that. I think that really helps. Two, I try to communicate our morning plan the night before as well as the morning of. So even though we know, okay, this is, maybe we're in this rhythm of this is what a school day looks like, I still over communicate with my children. So the night before, maybe when I'm tucking them into bed, I'll say, tomorrow's a school day, we're going to be doing school in the morning. And then the morning of, like maybe while I'm getting breakfast, I'll say, okay, everybody, like when we're done with breakfast, we're then gonna brush our teeth, we're then gonna clean up. And after that, then we're gonna start school. And what that's gonna look like is I'm gonna work with, blank child doing this. I'm gonna set so-and-so up with this, and then you will get to do blah, blah, blah. And so I lay it all out in the morning. That way everybody knows what to expect. And I find that that really decreases the amount of kickback of like, I don't want to do school. I think what's hard is if I don't communicate and then they get in their minds like, oh, I really wanted to go play this game. And then afterward, I'm like, okay, we're going to go do this. And they're like, I wanted to play the game. And I'm like, nope, it's school time. I feel like that is where friction happens. So overly communicating the plan is, I think, a good thing. Number 3, I think oftentimes the preschoolers and toddlers can feel kind of left out, especially if you've integrated an actual curriculum for your kindergartner, first grade, second grade, or whatever grade. The youngest ones can maybe feel a little bit left out because it's very easy when you are working with these older kids to just, like, if I had 5 hours back to back to back with those kids, I would be in heaven because I'd be like, we could get so much done, we could focus on so much, but that's just not the case. So I think helping our littlest to feel included in the schooling process. So even making them feel official by like calling it school for them. So I have started calling the time in the morning with my youngest. I will say, this is your school. Here's what we're doing for your school. And I'm like, you are gonna do school today. This is what school looks like. Now, granted, most of the stuff that she's doing is it's just playing, which we'll get to. But calling it school, I feel like I saw such a like, I'm doing school. I'm like the big kids, and so I think that also created this like good thing. So I remind them, this is school. You're a part of school. Also, I think giving school supplies. So my littlest totally doesn't need like anything really in terms of school supply. But when I, at the beginning of a year, when I give everyone some school supplies or when I refresh school supplies like midway through the year, whether it's like new markers or crayons or whatever, I always make sure the littlest has basically the same thing so that they feel like they are a part of school as well because they have the supplies. So kind of making them feel official, I think, has been helpful. Okay, number 4. This is basically the thing that has helped me the most. I create stations. So, and trust me, here at the Forney household, we are not fancy by any means in our schooling. So when I say stations, what I mean is literally I will grab a few things, whether it's activities or toys or whatever it is, and I will set one over on that chair. I will set one over on that couch. I will put one over on that couch. I might come over and put one on this. We have like a little table over there. I might put one on the little table. And so I'll probably pull about 4 or 5 items for our stations. And I will set those up. And when I say, okay, I'm about to start school with so-and-so, then I take the other child, one of the youngest one who I'm not actually doing school yet with because they're still preschool, and I'll say, here's what your school is today. Let me walk you through it. So first you're gonna start with this, and you can work on stacking these blocks. And then when you're done with that, come over here and you can do a puzzle. And then when you're done with that, come over here and you can do whatever. And so I walk them through all 5, and then I say, okay, you can get started. Now I make sure I don't start them on the stations until I'm ready to go with my other child for schooling. Also, time this very strategically. So I make sure, like I said, everything is ready for our schooling morning. And then the moment that I get that littlest one started on all of the stations, I grab the child that has the most difficult subject, or I shouldn't say the most difficult, the thing that morning that we need to get done that requires my undivided attention. I prioritize, like, okay, this one I could do with a toddler on my lap, but this one is a lot harder, and so I need to be totally focused just one-on-one with that one child. And so I'll, kind of maneuver around those things based on what requires my most undivided attention. So the moment those stations start, I already have the other child seated and ready to go, and I just walk over and I'm like, let's work. Because I know at that point, We have roughly 20 to 30 minutes. Now, again, this is with my child. Everyone's children will be different, but I found if I provide enough variety, so if there's like 5 things and they spend 3 to 4 minutes on each thing, I can maybe squeak out 20 to 30 minutes. Again, this also depends on the mood. Every day is different. So if the child is in a really difficult mood, I may just have to throw out the station idea, and it's just going to be one of those days that, you know, you're just going to have to like get through it. But I would say on average, when we're pretty scheduled with this, it works pretty well, where I can guarantee that I can kind of get through this particular subject with the toddler being entertained for a little bit. Okay. I'm also, I wanted to show you, this is like just an example. This is a big Tupperware I have in a closet, and it is filled with like stuff from the dollar store and the dollar spot at Target and like any random other toys that we have found or things that we need. Like one example is like these little colorful cubes. And so I might set these out and say, I want you to stack these in piles, and I want you to separate them by color or whatever it is. I mean, I'll set that out. And so I have that bin, and so I'll go and grab a few of those things for the stations. I have lots of ideas on items for stations of what we've used for them. So I'm gonna make a separate video about that because it would just be way, way too long if I went into that right now. But anyway, that's just an example of like, there's a bin that has lots of stuff you can grab from, and I just go and grab 5 things. But yes, so there's another video for that, so check that out. Number 5, I actually have workbooks for our preschooler. And I am gonna make a separate video about this as well to kind of show you these exact workbooks. I just grabbed them on Amazon. And this year I thought, you know what? I do have a curriculum for our preschooler, but it mostly is just reading books. And so I thought, I think I want to do a little bit of something with like letters and numbers and stuff. So I grabbed these 2 books. One is a paper one that you write on, and the other is like a wipe, clean, dry erase. And so having workbooks for her, she was so excited. I'm like, these are your school books, because the other guys all have, you know, full-blown curriculums. And they've got math workbooks, and they've got like other stuff. So I was like, this is your workbook. And so at a different point in the morning, not necessarily during when the child is doing stations, but at a different point in the morning, I'll say, let's do one worksheet out of your workbook and let's finish your school. Now, if they're playing super well, I'm not pushing these workbooks. It's more like we'll just do those here and there as, you know, as we want to. So I'll even say, do you want to do your workbook today? And they're like, no. I'm like, okay, that's fine. We don't need to do your workbook. But it's more like, you know, when they're kind of in that place where they're like, I really want to do school like everybody else. I'm like, okay, let's get you set up with, you know, a little tracing worksheet. So number 6, another idea in the morning, if things are getting wild and you are just like really struggling with the youngest preschooler or toddler, then pause to do a reading break with just that child. So I would say, okay, like in 5 minutes, I'm gonna stop over here and maybe get those other kids set up with something else, or give them like a little break and say, I'm gonna, you know, talk to your youngest one and say, why don't you go and grab, I want you to pick out 2 books that you want me to read you, and these will be your school books for the day. You go grab 2 books and I will read them to you. And then they just grab whatever 2 books. But again, you're kind of calling it school, and then they feel like, oh, they got, you know, 5 minutes of like undivided attention, snuggle time on the couch. And then you can just kind of read to them, and that might help just give them that little connection that they need so that you can then go and hopefully get a little bit more school in afterward. And number 7, the one I wanted to touch on, is snacks, because I feel like it would be easy to throw snacks, and this is our personal preference, to throw snacks at the preschool and the toddler like all day to keep them entertained with eating. However, that's not the route we've taken, mainly because if I did that, my other kids would also want food all the time. And so in our schedule, we have a snack break at 10:30. So there's like 1 snack break. So that's also been really helpful, because then I'm not being asked all morning by the toddler, preschooler, or whoever to, you know, can I have a snack? So I'm always like, you know, snack will be at this time at 10:30. So just hang tight and it'll be coming. So that's kind of how we manage snacks. But I thought I would mention that because little people like to eat a lot. So anyway, hope this video was helpful. Feel free to check out these other videos, and if you are interested in these 2 workbooks, I will link to them below in my in the description. If you want to check out these workbooks, I will have another video describing them in detail, but you can also just go and check them out right now in the description. And yeah, I will talk to you guys later. Bye.